Buyers do this on purpose. They wear you down, man. Like you get fatigue, right? Okay, well, we're going to give you 10 million. And then they're like, they do due diligence. They do a few things. And you're like, you know what? I'm only going to give you 7. And by then you're like, oh my God, I haven't been paying attention to my business for a year because I've been doing this negotiation. I don't want to go through this process again. So you're like, fine, take it for 7 million.
She just sold her company. She sat in a room full of men negotiating the biggest deal of her lifetime. Wait, she sold for how much? I can't even believe she managed to get double her valuation. Let's keep this just between us.
What is up? I'm so excited to bring you today's podcast. Julie Cole is one of the founders of Mabel's Labels. Do you guys know Mabel's Labels? Because I sure do. They got me through the entirety of my children's sleepaway camp experience. They're labels made by the ladies who founded Mabel's Labels. You label your sippy cups, you label your camp clothes. It's like, a savior phenomenal. Anyway, here's what's cool about this exit. Julie was able to build this with 3 of her best friends, including one of them was her sister. While she was building the business, she had 6 children. She did it all on her own terms and was able to sell to the grand dame of labels, Avery. And she's still there, like 9 years later. It's amazing. So it's like a really, really good exit that everyone could learn from. It's a real positive one. And the thing about it that I love in listening to her is that she has such good insights on like how to make that happen, how to work with multiple founders and have, a group of co-founders, how to know when it's time to sell, how to make sure that you're negotiating properly, who should do your negotiating. This whole episode is chock full of it. So I can't wait for you to listen. All right, here's Julie. Julie, welcome.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, I got a fangirl on Mabel's Labels. So you guys got me through every single sleepaway camp summer for years. And so I feel so grateful to you. Thank you for having such a great product.
Oh, well, you're most welcome. It has been such a fun ride. It's been 22 years since we started in that basement. And, it's been such a ride connecting with so many moms and parents, and people have loved our labels, like you say, for sleepaway camp, for school, for preschool, for all their sports, all that jazz. So it's just been a blast.
That is awesome. Okay, take me back to the basement.
Back to the basement.
Back to the basement. We're back. Tell me about the start of Mabel's Labels.
Right. Okay. So basically for me, there were 2 whys. One was there was a product missing from the market, along with my co-founders who were my sister and 2 of our friends from college who actually went on to marry a brother and a young uncle. So we were all family too. So there were 4 of us and we had a good product idea. We were young moms and our kids were losing stuff. And, we were using masking tape and permanent marker and it didn't work. We're like, there's got to be something better out there. And there wasn't. So we created it. So we had a good idea. That was one. And then for me, particularly my catalyst was at that point, I'm a recovered lawyer. I have 6 children. So at the time, I know it's ridiculous. So at the time, there were only 3, and the oldest had just turned 3 and received an autism diagnosis. So I didn't think the traditional workforce was going to suit me any longer. I really needed to be able to advocate for him, set up programs for him. And he did already have 2 younger siblings, and he only just turned 3. So it was already a busy household. So that's when I said to the gals, okay, we've had this really good business idea. Like maybe it's time for us to run with this thing. And we just got into our research and development. We started doing business plan, and here we are 22 years later.
Okay. A bunch of questions. But first of all, I want to share something that I think is so interesting when we talk about the exit gap and why women are exiting less so and for less than men quite often. A lot of times it's because we start businesses out of rejecting the traditional workspace because it doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for us as mothers. It doesn't work at all. But we don't ever think that we could build a business like born from that could get to exit. And so I'm so excited to hear this story, because it's a story that will really, really resonate with so many in your why. Like, it's just, it just sometimes the workforce as it is feels impossible for mothers sometimes.
Well, it kind of is. Like it kind of is. And I mean, we know that statistically, we know that through studies, we know that, women are carrying the mental load at home and they're the default parent, and, they're getting the call when the kid coughs twice at daycare, and their parental leave isn't long enough and not paid well enough. And like, this is why women are exiting if they can, because it really is not conducive to having any sort of work-life balance. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that area.
So for sure. All right. So 2 areas I want to dig into. So first, how does it go from idea to something that scales and gets, so few women ever get even to over $1 million in revenue, and you were able to really scale this. What were the steps, or what were like the turning points that really got you to scale?
Right. I think there are a few things here. I mean, the first thing we had to do was we actually had to create a product that worked. So we thought, okay, finding, a material that would be dishwasher, microwave safe won't be that difficult. And, I experienced that at my first baby show, all these dads being like, well, I'll just print something off my printer. And I'm like, you go try that. Because we've had like all sorts of materials in our dishwasher for a year before we found something. So, you do have to do a lot of that research development. I think also in those early days, it was very helpful having 4 of us, because we could divide and conquer the tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in those days, because 22 years ago, there weren't podcasts to listen to. There weren't groups to join online. There weren't webinars. That solo entrepreneur journey could be very, very lonely. It still is. And you even and we have the resources now, and it's still so lonely.
Yeah.
So I think for us, from a mental health perspective, having each other as well, from a workload perspective, and also being like, if somebody's feeling deflated, and be like, what did I think? What are we thinking? Why did we, why we've gone to school for all these other reasons. Now we're making labels in a basement. What, so I think, we first had to find the product, the material. The other thing too, when you're launching a product that's new to market, often you have to teach the market that they need you.
Yep.
And that can be a huge obstacle. Now for us, that wasn't such an obstacle, because soon as a parent saw our labels in the wild, like if a mom was at the park and saw my kid's Mabel's labels on their like Posey, her name, they'd be like, what is that brilliant thing? So your kid's not going to lose their sippy cup, right? But again, in the early days, we didn't have social media. So it was very word of mouth in real life. But we were very early adopters of social media in that mom blog space, because that brought word of mouth online. That was a word of mouth vehicle. And that's how moms, we don't trust traditional things. We trust each other, right? So that was a great vehicle for word of mouth for us. So yeah, it's creating the product, teaching the market that they need the product, and then getting that word out there.
Yeah. You really were about, if you built a superior product and you got it in the first few hands, that would travel. Because I was just thinking as I was listening to you about how I found out about Mabel's labels. It was, I think it might have been, I wouldn't say it was pre-social media, but I would say, because my daughter, my 2 daughters were 2003 and 2007.
Okay.
So when they were becoming the age that they needed labels of any kind, it was still very early in social media's time. And I think it was like either through the HSA or like through some label somewhere that I found that out. So it was a true word of mouth growth, which is really interesting. And then utilizing social media as the accelerator to that word of mouth.
For sure. And we were think about it, like moms were a market. We were moms. We kind of know where moms are. So we did a lot of really sort of smart collaborations with summer camps, with daycares. Whereas, we have this huge fundraising program. Like we have, a few full-time employees who run this. So that, say your kid's going to camp and you want labels. So we partner with the camp. We give them a kickback for every label they sell, like on their camp website. And the camp's happy because they don't have to collect money. They don't have to distribute labels. It's all done just on their website, and they get money. Parents are happy. Camp directors are happy. We're happy. It's a win, 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 win.
Yeah, that
was a lot of early work.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So one of the things you talked about was the other way that you were able to do this was to have these incredible partners and be all in it together, right? So it's your sister, it's your friends who became relatives, like it's the four of you. Did you ever come into situations where you faced challenges with one another, and how did you tackle it? I hear so many different stories about.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there are a lot of benefits to having, a co-founder group of four is a lot. I'm not going to lie. Like that's a lot because you get a lot of opinions and you've got a lot of, but you've got a lot of skill sets. You've got a lot, again, with the divide and conquer. So, I mean, I think for us, some of those early lessons were about like, okay, we need to make sure that we're communicating properly. We need to make sure we understand how each other best receives messages. So how can we best speak with them? We had to be very careful. And I think this was really what came down to doing the exit in the end. One of the problems was that when you have four people who are kind of co-CEOing, you each have departments that you take care of. And ours felt very natural. Like, we had somebody who had been in financial planners. So, they had the finance department. My sister did the production. We had, so we divided it all up. But you tend to also set yourself up for silos then, because, my sister who was in production, she's going to care a lot about the production people and making sure they're happy and not overworked and whatever. And then you've got the marketing person who's like, wait, we just need to create more products so that I have something to write about, so that I have something to talk about, so I can go and talk about our new camp labels on TV. Whereas product development's going, wait, we don't have time to create new products. So you had a lot of competing interests. And then with four of us, we're all kind of, defending ours. So it was getting the point where it felt like we needed one person we were okay, but it did feel like we needed one person to be overall the health of the organization. So when we did end up doing the exit, we were at the cusp of making a change, like getting one CEO, because we wanted the company to move forward, and we knew that was the best way to do it.
It's interesting because you talk about having different roles. That's my husband and I founded our first business together. And the way that we survived without killing each other was having like really different roles. But that lack of overlap, which is amazing, does sometimes create different interests and silos of what represents success to each person. So, okay, so you did not take in funding for this business prior to selling, correct?
No, we had bootstrapped the whole way. Another great thing about having, four co-founders is that everybody's got skin in the game. Everybody's made some financial contributions, sweat equity, all of that. So we were able to spread that out a bit. So, but again, when you go to sell, then you only own 25% of the company. So a part of us, like when people are like, you need to go on like Shark Tank and things like that, we're like, well, A, we don't need the funding. We're fine. Mm-hmm. And B, we don't want to give away our company.
You don't want to dilute.
We don't want to dilute. We've only got a quarter of the business each. We don't want that to go down, right?
That's right. And then when you have if you're starting out automatically with 25%, it makes the decisions that you make in terms of the, what you sell for and when you go, vastly a lot of the times. Yeah. I mean, that was so interesting with Dave because we were 49-51 but it all came into our house. So that made it like, it was like sort of easier.
Yes.
I had a lower threshold for like, okay, I want to sell for this. I want to do this, something.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So how does it come up? So you're running it, for many years at this point, and it's 2016 you sold, right? Was it 2016? I think so.
That's a good question. I think it's been about, probably about that. That sounds about right. You might know more than I do.
I do your research. So, okay. So you're, what goes into like, how do you know it's time? And did you all know it was time, or was it like?
So, it's funny because Carrie, we actually weren't thinking about selling at that time. But we did know we had to make a change. That's when we were like, okay, if we want to go next level, maybe it is time to take an investment or take out a loan. Like, because we were doing very well, but we were, world domination, full-time job, right? So yeah. And we knew we needed to, like one person to run it. It was like, does one of us want to do it? Or is it time to get an outside? I mean, as far as business experience, we only each started this company. We hadn't started other companies, and none of us like had a business degree or anything like that. So we thought maybe we need to bring somebody in who's got a little more expertise. We've done great to this point. And then we got a call out of the blue from Avery, who obviously is like an industry giant. And so they called us in July, and, shockingly, the conversation went well. Everything wrapped up by the end of the year, which is a very fast, very, very fast, as you know.
Okay. So was this like, you get the call, it's Avery, which is like, I mean, hopefully everybody listens gets who, Avery is all things singles, right? Okay. So they call. Are you like, do I need to hire somebody to negotiate this? Do I need to go try and get other offers? Like, what was the mindset? Because I would imagine Avery being the dream acquirer for you guys, and it just drops in your lap. What do you do?
Right. So we had conversations with them, and the conversations went well. So there were a few things that we wanted to make sure of. We didn't want to lose our brand, Mabel's Labels, and we didn't. And they were like, we're not idiots. We want you because you're Mabel's Labels. You guys created this incredible brand. Why would we come in and call it Avery? Right. So we're actually in the same building with the same staff, we are running the same way, except now we have like more resources. Like if we need, more help in legal or HR, then we can tap into more resources. So it's been a good news story, really. So we want to make sure our brand would be protected. We worried about our people, our staff. We want to make sure that was going to be okay. And of course, then the price had to be okay. And yes, we absolutely got somebody come and negotiate for us for a couple of reasons. This is what they do. It's their job, to do mergers and acquisitions. We want to make sure that they do a good job for us, and we don't leave money on the table that we might not know otherwise, right? And then the other reason is because often when your company gets acquired, you stay on for a certain amount of time. So I think if you're doing your own negotiating and you have some nasty conversations, you could then enter that relationship with a strained relationship, right? And so by having somebody kind of do the dirty work, you can good cop it and bad cop it, and everybody can go into it with good, warm thoughts and happy feelings when you share that time together.
That is so important, because I have worked on a lot of acquisitions, both on the buy side and sell side, where it is a perfect fit. Like it's a perfect fit. But if they are exposed to one another during that like legal and negotiation process, it feels ick. Like you get, it really could spook you. Yeah. So when you ran that, you decided that you were going to have someone come in and help you negotiate. You did not go and say, though, I want to try and beat Avery's offer. You knew you wanted to go.
Well, we didn't want to. We liked everything we heard. We had other companies in the past like approach us. We're like, no, we're not ready, or that price. Are you kidding? No. So they said all the right things. They did all the right things from a culture standpoint. It was a fit, and it was a great brand to align with. So it just made sense. But I do need to point out, this, Carrie, to have a first phone call in July and wrap up at the end of December in the same year is very unusual. And, it made me think at the beginning about how you said like women acquired companies are the ones that kind of leave money on the table, and I think, in noting how quickly that happened, I think women also are more likely to get worn down. Like this process, again, the four of us was handy because we put our one partner, Mumby, we call her last name Mumby, we kind of put her in charge of managing all of that. So the three of us could run the business, because I've seen often when somebody's so busy negotiating, they take their eye off the ball of the business. And if it doesn't go through, they've also lost a ton of sales and clients because they've been so unfocused on the business. So you got to make sure that, because you can get left at the altar, right? Like this is not a done deal till that money's in the bank. So I think, so often, you take your eye off the ball, and then you end up leaving money on the table. And I think this is particularly for women because, I think the buyers do this on purpose. They wear you down, man. Like you get fatigue, right? So they might be like, okay, well, we're going to give you 10 million. And then they're like, They do due diligence. They do a few things. And you're like, you know what? I'm only going to give you 7. And by then you're like, oh my God, I haven't been paying attention to my business for a year because I've been doing this negotiation. I don't want to go through this process again. So you're like, fine, take it for 7 million because you're so fatigued at that point. And I think that's particularly true for women because not only we're running businesses, but we're also the ones who are focusing most on family. We've got elder care, we've got pet care, we've got neighbors, we're doing volunteer at the school. We're doing all the things. So we're more likely to fatigue and say, fine, take it for 7.
100.
Yeah.
You
Is that
are,
what you see?
that's what I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many reasons,
Yeah.
but that I see all the time. And the retrading of a deal, you're absolutely, absolutely right. So one thing that's so interesting to me, Julie, is like you're still there. It's like almost a decade later, and you're there and you're happy. You really are. Like I see it in your face. So talk to me about how that works. So is it just you who's still there? Just you. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I'm the only one there now. One did stay for a couple of years as a general manager, and then she moved on, but 2 left right away.
Okay. So you stayed and were happy. And it's, I do so many of these podcasts, and it's sometimes I get like moderate level of happies. But to me, when I hear you talk about this now, so much later, and you're still there and you're so happy, what's the key to that?
I think there's a couple of things. I think that, I'm passionate about the brand that we created. You don't just fall out of love with what you created because it gets acquired. And that's why so many people, if they do that 1 year transition or maybe even the 3 year, they can feel dead inside by the end of it, right? Because they see the thing that they created, continue along a path they wouldn't have chosen or fall apart or, we've all seen that happen with friends who have had companies acquired. For me, it is just, the company has grown. It has done well. I'm still with amazing people. And you know what? I love that. I see now, like somebody who was like, a new marketing assistant back then is now, manager of partnerships and brand relationships. Like I've seen people like somebody who we hired as a contractor is now the general manager and killing it. So sometimes it's also wonderful to bring in like the fresh blood is excellent. It's great for the business. It's great for the vibe. And as long as like, I guess because like I don't really think I have much ego around it. Like I've got a bunch of 20-somethings telling me, okay, Julie, you need to come in, bring this. We're going to do some TikToks and you got to dress like, and I'm like, okay,
I'll do it.
I'll do it. I have a blast. And I mean, really, they want me there. And I want to be there because of a skill set I have, which is connecting with people, connecting with moms, talking to people with passion about the brand and, sharing the story. And it's all about storytelling, right?
So 2 things. So first is insight that I think one of the things that I see is that because you had 3 other co-founders, it was never really like just you. And I think a lot of times when there's an entrepreneur who it's just them, when they then go into a larger organization and it's no longer just them in charge, it's very challenging. But you always had partners. So I think that might have helped it. The next question, and I think this is my final. I'm thinking about the 6 kids. How old is the youngest?
Okay. So yes, it's easy now. The youngest just turned 16.
Okay.
So they're like 16, 18, 19, I don't know, 21, 22, around 24, whatever. It seems to change every day. Like somebody had a birthday last week. So I don't know what the new number. Yeah. This way, like 5 are in college. So it feels a bit like this. Like I needed more of the payoff from the sale of the company.
So I guess one thing that I've seen a lot of times, I guess this for your business, it can go beyond just mom, but I know that your primary target is really in that space because it makes sense for Mabel's Labels. I know a lot of women who started businesses when their children were young based on a need to solve a problem for young kids. And then their kids get older and suddenly it's like becomes less relevant for them. And therefore they become like less engaged, less interested. And I look at you and I see you as someone who is still so engaged and so interested. Like I see it when I'm talking to you. Did you feel that at all as the kids were getting older? Did you have that?
So I think that's a really great question, even from a personal branding perspective, right? So yes, in the trenches back then, right? And I was blogging, like I was one of those OG mom bloggers.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
blogging about like diaper blowouts and pushing a triple stroller around. And
Yeah.
I wasn't blogging about labels. I was blogging to
Right.
connect. And then
Right.
as our kids were older, it's like, okay, now we need some icons or little picture motifs that are color schemes that are like tie-dye for camp, things like, oh, now we've got tweens. So let's have some like video game references in
Yep.
our, and things like so. And then kids are going off to college. And it's so funny because a lot of our OG customers from 22 years ago are buying them for their seniors now who are going into residential care. So
Right.
I think as it's evolved, and I mean, I don't pretend to be somebody I'm not. So I'm not talking about things like that anymore. I am coming from a seasoned mom perspective. And, some of the content, I've got a marketing team who have young kids. So like, let's throw them in the Insta stories and like, so just making sure. I think if you're transparent, and I always say the moms can sniff out a fake, right? And that's our customers. So we're always transparent and clear about, what it is we do, who we serve, and we have a lot of fun with it.
That is just so cool. Well, congratulations on not just the growth and the exit, but the continued passion and drive. I love to see it. And I deeply appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Love the conversation.